We'll be heading over to our interview session with financial analyst Muktar Mohammed, and we'll be talking about or diving deep into the issues around the economy in Nigeria, from the demand of tax by the FIRS boss to the aviation seeking some sort of palliative measures by from government, also to electricity issues, to the impact COVID-19 is having on the stock market, and so much more. To be doing justice to that will be Muktar Mohammed. Hello, Muktar, good morning. We are having him via Skype. So let's dive deep. Good morning, Muktar.
Yeah,
You're all smiles this morning.
Good morning, Messi. I'm good.
Yes. I mean, it's quite infectious. See me smiling because I'm seeing you smile. It is very, very needed at this point in time when the bite of COVID-19 is really, really bringing a whole lot of pain to Nigerians. So let's keep sharing the smile, right?
What else can we do?
Yeah, let's hope the economy smiles at us as well. Now let's head over to issues around the news and how it affects Nigerians. Let's begin with the tax issues. Just a few hours ago, the FIRS boss, Mr. Nami, on their Twitter page did, publish a statement saying that they would want some corporate bodies, like people who manufacture some products. Now we are thinking it's products like hand sanitizers, product like face mask, and also telecommunications company, bank, and also the e-financial services as well, to begin to make their tax returns. And people are saying, we don't want this. Why at this point in time? How do you even know they are making profits? Have they published their statement of account yet? I first of all want to get your reaction to that statement so we can move on from there.
Messi is very insensitive at this time for the FIRS to be saying what they're saying. Very, very insensitive. Businesses are going through one of the hardest times they've ever been. Even those so-called businesses that you think are doing very well had their own challenges during this COVID-19. You need to look at the cost of even their production. If they are manufacturers, you need to look at even the kind of provision they will make for their staff to be able to even be in the office at that time to work. And then, like you rightly said in your interview, how you sure they are making so much profit. I think this is the problem we have with government. Government like collecting, government doesn't like giving out. How do you tell me to begin to make my tax return? How do you tell me to start paying my tax return so early? How do you tell me that some companies should begin to make tax return? Because you're just thinking of revenue. And we've said it over and over, even on your program here. I say we have gone beyond where we see government looking for tax to revenue. What we need to see now is government looking for how to build business through revenue, how to help the small and SME business through reduction of tax payment, tax towards development, not tax all about revenue. We have moved beyond that, but in Nigeria, we are still thinking, the government is just thinking of how much can we get from these businesses, because in their own assumption, these businesses have made so much money during this COVID-19 today. I think it's not right, and it's coming from a high authority like the tax authority is very depressing.
Very depressing indeed, and Nigerians have expressed their displeasure at this too. But some supermarkets opened, and they were selling during this global pandemic. Also, we realized that telecommunications too probably would have had a surge in traffic, both data and voice as well. People producing hand sanitizers, they have come out to say these guys would have made a very good turnover. I mean, they would have made a huge profit, in the past 4 weeks that they have been locked down. Do you agree with that? Because I'm asking because I went into some supermarkets to buy some things, and I realized that some of the shelves are empty. Unusually, when they are filled, but this time around it's a lot emptier than usual. Even some things I wanted to buy were not on the shelf, so I had to keep them, until later when the lockdown is eased and people move back to business. So do you agree that these guys have made, a huge turnover?
It's relative, like you said it now. If my manufacturer is not able to bring those things to me and I run out of businesses, I run out of those goods and services, how do I make money? And again, you need to look at it this way. like I said, some of these staffs also, their staff also have to remuneration. Some of these companies have to put their staffs in hotel to wait so that they can come to work early. Some of them have to be put on special provision. So what the kind of revenue you think they are getting could be very small. And then not to forget that at this time, even the manufacturers, if you have to buy some of these products, moving it, the cost of transportation will go up because there's high demand and there is low supply because government is still restricting movement from point A to point B. So all these things come with their own risks and they comes with their own profitability. But in terms of profitability, then you need to begin to look at how many people are even able to go out, how many people even have the resources to go and buy some of these products that you think people are buying. Because you're looking at a sector, you're looking at an economy that is largely driven by the informal sector. And the informal sector is non-existent during this COVID-19 incident because those are where the people were able to make money, then go into some of the supermarkets to buy these things. Some of them are not able to make anything. So if the whereby the tax authority think that some of these companies have made money, the healthcare companies, remember the healthcare company has even asking government to give them bailout, and government is even giving 50 billion bailout to that sector. A sector that you think have succeeded is asking for bailout from the government. Talk less of a sector that is still struggling. You have to deal with infrastructure. You have to deal with the manpower. Every economy in the world, every business in the world is being supported by government in one way or the other. Ours should not be a difference. I think so.
Thank you very much for that. He mentioned at some point some countries, especially some of them in the UAE, who have progressed economically through some deep tax, by using taxpayers' money and the rest of them. So he's saying the same thing can't be done for Nigeria. Do you think taxing people, taxing businesses, individuals is the way forward for Nigeria?
Yes, Mercy, is the way forward, especially with the kind of volatility we have in the oil sector. That is the way forward. That is what we call diversifying of our revenue. And tax is one area that can diversify our revenue. What we can make in tax alone it could be more than we get in oil if we are able to do the right thing. But now, this is a challenge. The challenge is that in terms of taxing, we need to see how we can bring the informal sector into that bracket. That is where the challenge, because when you look at the formal sector, then how much do they contribute into the tax bracket compared to the informal sector? When I'm talking about the informal sector, I'm talking about how you capture that woman that is selling something on the road. I've captured how you capture the transport companies, the man that is driving bus from point A to B. I'm talking about how you capture those informal sectors. That entrepreneur that is just having his phone and is a money agent. How do you capture them? That is what government should begin to think of. Once you capture the informal sector, the type of revenue that will come into this government will be huge. That's what the UAE is doing. UAE is using the informal sector like their tourist industry, and they are looking at revenue to grow. That's what we talk about. Most of the revenue they collect from these taxpayers are used also to provide infrastructure so that they will attract more patronage, and by that they will have more money, and then they will pay more taxes, and the government will use those taxes. It's a win-win situation. It can't just be a win-loss situation. So for me, that is the way to go: diversify revenue, especially with the current events, especially with what happening in volatility of oil price. But then government must also think of what they can give back to the people. That's very needful.
Absolutely spot on there, because I wanted to mention that many Nigerians will say, fine, I'll pay my tax. But so far, the taxes have been paying. What have they done with it? My roads are still bad. I still have issues with power supply, you know. They will want the government to deliver, you know, on their promises from the tax that they pay. But I'm really glad that you've already mentioned that there. But let's move from tax issues now to the fuel issues, to petrol issues as well. The liberalization of fuel price, the PPRA just said I think yesterday that prices now will be set all over the country for people to you know, get fuel. But people are scared that with the announcement now that the subsidy is off, we are going to be in a whole lot of trouble, and getting fuel is going to be very expensive. Your take on that, please?
Mercy, it's still the same take I have because we have a government that is not sincere. Remember that before we went into the lockdown, the government reduced price from about 140 to 125, 125 naira per liter. And then people, at that time, the cost of crude oil has fallen over 50%, but the government was only reducing it by about 20 naira. Those were more, only like 20%. And people were saying, how do you have to do that? And the government came out in defense of that, look, they need to take into volatility of exchange rates and that and that. That is why they arrived at that price. And that, again, not up to that, 2 weeks after, I think the government came out and brought down the revenue again and said now it's now 100 and 120 something lower than what they said before. And at that time, people were not even going out. People were not even buying. So I know where the government is coming from. We are talking about trying about liberalization or what we call them, letting the economy flow by market demand and all that, which is very, very good. But government also still have to look at how the volatility of the exchange rate works. So now is the time, but they say they key that in because if you ask the energy sector people, they say that price of crude oil, price of price of crude oil has gone down. The price of petroleum product, especially the premium motor fuel, spirit fuel, should be selling as low as 80 naira. And the government came in defense that yeah, it could be that low. But we are looking at a situation whereby they made devaluation of the currency. And not long from that, CBN came up and said now they have moved the exchange rate from 305 government to about 360, and then moved the one parallel market to 380. And they said they were going to use the parallel. So the 20 naira was supposed to be as palliative. So a cushion effect in terms of exchange rate that was removed. So it's surprising that the same people that gave us this same explanation are coming back today to tell us that we have to begin to think of oil price. Yes, oil price we have, there's no more subsidy, that which is very good. Deregulation has come to play, which is very good. But we must be coming on the fact that if that really is playing, they need to think of the volatility of the exchange rate. And now if we say oil was supposed to be selling for 80 naira per liter, and we're already buying for that, then we are looking at almost about 40-something naira differences in terms of exchange rate. And they are now saying they want to go to CBN for CBN to begin to see how they can give them different exchange rates and that. I don't think it's their private business. Market determined exchange rate is what we have been craving for, what the IMF have been saying. Yeah, price of petroleum product go up and down, but that is the way to go. But now that it is down, I think we have done the right thing. But if it goes up, the one thing again, Nigeria should be prepared that if it goes up to like, now we're looking at 30 naira per barrel, and even at that now, it's not even doing 30 naira per barrel, it's doing about 23, 25 naira per barrel. So I don't see any reason for this type of news that the PPRC is coming out at this moment.
Well said, Muktar, well said. People are scared that the government is borrowing here, borrowing there, and also even asking the AFDB, for more millions to be able to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you share the fears that Nigeria is going to be in a whole lot of trouble, when this COVID-19 is over and we need to pay back?
I don't share that fear. I think initially, you should remember when they borrow before now, the government stopped it when the COVID-19 came in. And I think that was a very right strategy to do. Look, as it stands, our economy is at the mercy of a lot of factors that are not working for us. Look, an economy is growing through three sectors. You either go agricultural, you either go industrialist, or you go in the service sector. And these three sectors are the ones that provide job opportunity for your citizens. As it stands now, we have those three sectors, but they are non-existent in the fact that it's only agriculture we see government is putting so much. In the industrial area, when you talk about the manufacturer, they are coming with a lot of challenges infrastructure-wise. The service sector is non-existent yet. We just see that only in terms of the telecommunication sector. And now, so for us to borrow now, we have to borrow because it's even that the term we are borrowing now is not soft term. It's even the IMF that is telling us that we should come to borrow because as it stands now, we are not earning enough inflow, especially from our foreign direct investment. And our currency is depending on the inflow we have from the foreign direct investment. to be, because we are an economy that is 90% importing virtually everything that we need. We are a wealth building economy. That means we have the wealth, but we cannot make this, we cannot turn this wealth into industrial goods that will come to service. So we are a wealth building economy. So, but in terms of converting this wealth into raw material, we have a challenge. So that is why we have those volatility in terms of the exchange. I mean, in terms of the exchange rate and other things. So for me, I think it's the right time to go for the government to borrow, especially in the area of infrastructure, so that we'll begin to see a growth not only in the agricultural sector. We see those growth goes into the industrial sector, and then we begin to see those growth move into the service sector. Once you have growth move into the service sector itself is a sector that is dependent on knowledge-based economy. And when you go to the sector of knowledge-based economy, that's how Chinese have been able to build their economy through knowledge-based. Knowledge-based become innovative when crisis comes. They even try to strive more in the time of crisis because a lot of innovation will comes into. Until we get to that sector, we won't have those. We'll have those. So whether government is borrowing, I think this is the right time for government to borrow. Nobody to challenge government over borrowing. Now, people should understand that when IMF or World Bank is giving you loan, they are not just going to give government 3 point something billion or be put in cash to be put in a foreign reserve. No, they are going to look at the development, especially the projects that the government wants to do. That is where we say most of this money will be going into capital expenditure, and this expenditure will be handled by IMF direct, paying those contractors. So it's not that the cash is coming into government coffer, and then we begin to see that government is corrupt, they may divert this money. No, these sectors are only going to be there, and those cash will be paid directly to those companies, and those companies in turn will begin to pay to their workers, and the effects all this will have on the common man. So for now, I think this is the way to go, especially when it's already proven that in terms of revenue, we cannot meet up. Whether we'll be able to pay is another thing altogether, because oil price will not remain at 13 naira per barrel for a very long time. I can assure you that we could strive forward and we'll be able to pay. Then secondly, again, we must also know that debt is not something that is not negotiable. And remember, again, we are looking for debt forgiveness from China, from most of us, and I think we'll get it over time.
I hope we will get it over time. You pointed out something on agriculture, and lots of bodies have warned. The IFO has warned, the UN has warned, the IMF has warned that some of the developing countries like Nigeria are prone to having food security issues and during this COVID-19 and also post-COVID-19, because the farming season is being affected right now. The rainy seasons have started, and by now the seeds should have been on the ground, for them to start growing. Kano is in do I call it, permit me to say, is in a not so good state now. And they are on a 2 weeks compulsory lockdown, meaning some of these people, I'm not sure they will allow them to go to the farm, meaning food security is being threatened. We just need a way forward. Do you think the government has put enough measures in place to ensure that these farmers get either their palliative measures or they are given free way to go to the farms just so they can produce this food for us? Interstate transport now is going to be very limited, and it's going to affect some of these people delivering some of these food items. What is the way forward for Nigeria, for us here in Nigeria? Okay,
yeah, for the interstate, I think the government have come out clearly and said that we will allow transportation of goods and services, essential goods and services from one point to another. So for me, that is fantastic. Now, secondly, you're talking about the farmers be able to go to farm or not. Remember, even during the lockdown, one thing that was specific by government is that some sectors of the economy will not be affected by total lockdown because they have to go out, because most people are depending on it. And the agricultural sector was one of the sectors. Now, the challenge you have, which you have rightly pointed out, is the challenge that we have, especially in the Northeast, which happen to be one of the core area of production of some of our essential goods, especially in Lagos, like tomatoes, yam, and other things. There will be a challenge. But when you look at most of this production, they are not really produced in Kano main town. And the challenges that we've seen is that most of this rural area have not been so much affected by this COVID-19 issue. So we may have challenge. The only challenge we have is what I said about initially about demand and supply in terms of movement of these goods from point A to point B. How many of these trucks will be available? How many of them will be roadworthy? How many of them will be able to bring goods back to Lagos at the community? And you know the challenge we have with our security agencies. They tend to take some of these people will now start talking about extortion on the way, and that could also be another challenge. So for me, we'll have challenge in the food area. We're already having it because some of the women goes to the market. My wife says that the cost of tomatoes and other things have already gone up. And he attributed that to the fasting period because during this period, sometime also in the northeast and on the northern part, they don't move goods down to Lagos that much because of their 30 days fasting. So we have a little bit challenge. Ordinarily, this is a very challenging time because of the Ramadan fast. Then coupled with the COVID-19, I think it will be a challenge. Do government have the wherewithal to handle this thing? I think they should, because they may also they have food reserve. They even try to reduce some of these reserve goods to us, even if we have issues with some government saying those are expired. I think that is another area that we need to see the efficiency of government in terms of putting food reserve. Unfortunately, if you look at what you are hearing around, if you look at what is seen around, you realize there's not enough storage facilities to even store some of these products. So it will be a challenge, but it will be a challenge that will, on the long run, begin to impact on inflation in the general economy. So it will be a short-term challenge, but it's something that we will overcome over the long time.
All right. Before I let you go, let's talk about the performance of the equities market. The other week, it was all positive, and Nigerians or investors were feeling, wow, what's going on? In the midst of COVID-19, the equities market is performing so positively. Then suddenly, the next week, it begins to, it begins to perform negatively. It was red. Now, some of these some of the stocks are seen to be making very good performance. But let me ask, first of all, just give us a little bit of analysis of how the market has performed so far this week. That was yesterday, Monday.
Yeah, yesterday was a little bit fair for the market when you look at what happened in the market in terms of volume, in terms of movement, in terms of news. Last week was positive because we saw some results from especially the major banks that we're expecting. We saw results from GTB, we saw results from First Bank, we saw results from Stanbic IBTC just yesterday. Also, we saw results from UBE. They were good, they were impressive when you look at everything around us, the COVID-19, our impact. But, those impacts will not be felt in the first quarter. We intend to see most of those COVID-19 impact in the second quarter because most of the second quarter of the year, the country was on lockdown. So you see those impacted, especially in the financial sector. Now, what was attributed to this good performance last week was because of these results that were being expected. So those results had some positive impact on the market because they came better than what people expect, especially from UBA and First Bank. And then again, investors are still seeing value because in the short term, the market looked very volatile. But in the long term, it seems to be a lot of value. So people are doing value investment. So that's what you saw there. People are doing value investment in terms of equity that they think have very strong fundamentals and are selling at a very cheap rate. So investors seem to get attracted to those equity. And then the regulators too are not leaving anything to chance. They've been able to make the market run even during the lockdown, making sure that stockbrokers are able to do remote trading from the comfort of their room. That was very commendable from the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the Security and Exchange Commission. So that also bringing confidence to some of the investors. So those are part of the positive that came out from the market last week. And also the regulators also decided to come in with an idea that they have been playing with for a very long time, use equity borrowing. That is whereby you use your stocks to get to borrow to an investor, and then so those are good measures that investors were looking for to deepen the market in terms of liquidity. So all this came to play, and I think it positively affected the market.
Thank you so much, Muktar. That's a very nice place to land. Thank you for the insights that you've given to us on all the topics that we've treated so far. We just hope it gets better. Stay safe, Muktar. Stay safe. Thank you so much.
You too, and you're looking good on this, your dress too.
All right, thank you. So we will round off the show today with performance of the Naira against the dollar, as the Naira in the parallel markets depreciated by 14 points to close at 420 Naira per dollar at the investors and exporters I&E window. The rate depreciated to settle at 388 Naira per dollar. The activity level in the I&E window fell 38.7% to $187.8 million from $306.3 million recorded in the previous week. Now, lower dollar spending limits on debit cards in response to the decline in dollar supply as well as rising demand. Some banks, namely Zenith, Fidelity, GT Bank, reduced the monthly dollar spending limit on debit cards. Now, while Zenith Bank reduced the monthly limits to $1,000, Guarantee Trust Bank reduced monthly limits to $500. Fidelity Bank, on this part, reduced monthly limits to $1,000 from $3,000. I want to believe it has been a worthwhile time on today's business, bringing you insightful analysis on issues happening in the economy in Nigeria and in other parts of the world. But before we go, remember coronavirus is a deadly disease. Ensure to wash your hands with soap on the running water for at least 20 seconds regularly, or use a hand sanitizer. Also remember, COVID-19 is real and swift in its spread. Social distancing is one of the ways to avoid it. Until tomorrow, I am Mercy Frank. Stay safe.